Hello, accelerators. It's Diane. It's Mindset Monday, and I'm coming to you today from the inside of our 31-foot RV, a Winnebago, by the way. And I have to tell you, it's been a journey of a lifetime. Although my friend and I are pretty good at handling most anything, I tend to be more on the positive side, and she tends to be more of the worrier. So it's kind of interesting the way we navigate troublesome problems on this trip. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about it, and hopefully what I say today is going to be helpful in you managing a negative mindset. We ended up traveling, well, first and most importantly, at the last campground we were at, somebody left the lights on. It wasn't me. And the battery was dead. Okay. So that was the first issue that we had to deal with, is how do you get a battery started in an RV when you don't have any jumper cables? Because we didn't bring them this time, thinking that we would never need them. Haha. AAA, interestingly enough, does have an RV service program. So we called them really early, 6 o'clock in the morning, so that we could manage to get out of there and have some travel time to our next destination. Of course, as is usual, if anybody's ever used AAA, they tell you they'll be there in an hour, which on AAA time means about 3 hours. So we finally did get on our way, and we decided that we were not going to go super far, but we had a 4-hour drive to another horse campground. And we really looked forward to staying at this horse campground because the last one that we were at was really spacious. There were ponies everywhere. It was really exciting at any given moment. I got to ride a horse. I got to fall off a horse. And we did some real cool hiking in the woods. So we ended up traveling to the next horse campground, which it was in a national park. However, unbeknownst to us, this truly was a campground designed for cowboys, Indians, and their horses. We ended up going down a road that was probably 6 miles of one lane, no shoulders, okay, in a 31-foot RV. All right. Desperation set in when she worried that somebody might actually be coming the other direction. That never really happened, which was good. But ultimately, after that 6-mile journey, that road turned into a dirt road, which was even worse. Okay. She started to panic, thinking what would happen if the trees were low, if the road got narrow, if we ended up going in a ditch, if we got stuck in the mud. I tended to be a little bit on the positive side, saying things like, well, at least it's not raining. And at least it's beautiful here. And at least there's not big semi-tractor timber trucks going the other way on this one-lane dirt road. But as it turned out, we got to the campsite. I had picked the first one that was available off of an online map. Note to self, never pick off of an online map. And we found out that the campsite that we were actually supposed to set up on was about like this, okay? Now, RVs like to be leveled out. They do have automatic leveling equipment, but when you're on a pitch that steep, the automatic leveling equipment doesn't work. So you have to do it manually. And just remember, the ultimate goal of leveling an RV is to make sure that the 4 tires are still on the ground. So it was a journey. We happened to arrive 15 minutes before the sunset. We dealt with the leveling issue as best we could, and we settled in for a nice warm night of leftovers and margaritas. Now, what did I learn from this experience? Well, what I learned is it's really important when you have a mindset and you're feeling anxious, your mindset is geared into the thoughts that you have. Okay, the anxiety is coming from the feelings, which turn into thoughts, which then create that physical response of fight versus flight. So I find that it's easier for me to think about what is the worst thing that could happen. And then I try to deal with that. So for example, when the battery died. What is the worst thing that could happen? Well, obviously it did. We couldn't get the engine started. But what is the worst thing that could happen from that? We would have to call AAA. What is the worst thing that could happen for that? We wait a long time to get started on our journey because they're notoriously late. Or we actually talk to other campers and see if there's somebody that could give us a jump. What is the worst thing that could happen when we did that? They could say no. They could realize that we're uppity Yankee women traveling alone in an RV and have no business taking care of a vehicle this size. We voted for the AAA. At least that guy wasn't going to be sassy. So when you think about what is the worst thing that can happen when you're confronted with fear or anxiety, I want you to think about, is that the worst thing that could happen really as bad as you think it's going to be? How would you handle it if that worst thing actually took place? And then start to analyze that. Because one of the things that I've found is that you can think about what is the worst thing, and then you can think about whether that thing is really that bad. And you can pretty much talk yourself out of any situation, realizing that you are a smart person, you're flexible, you're ready for anything. So, what can we do to make sure that the worst thing doesn't happen? Don't leave the lights on in the car or the RV overnight, okay? Sometimes just dealing with the obstacle is the best way to eliminate worry and anxiety. When we ended up on an even worse road, when we departed our new horse campground, we complimented ourselves that we made it through yesterday on a one-lane road, and we can do the same today on what we could affectionately call an ATV trail. So realizing that we were riding in a 31-foot, 12.5-foot across ATV, we just pushed on forward, hoping that there wouldn't be anything coming in the opposite direction. Proud of ourselves when we finally made it to the highway, on for our next adventure. It really wasn't so bad in retrospect. It seemed bad at the time, but the worst thing could have happened, kind of did happen, but then on today's journey, it wasn't nearly as bad as we expected it to be. So use your mind to get out of that trap and deal with the worst thing so that you can have the knowledge that you can kind of take care of anything. Thanks for listening. Have a fantastic week. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay home. This is Diane, and I'll see you next week.